Just watch this comedian talk about how funny it was where you call up and how difficult it might be to pay a bill, where you might have to give them the password or something like that, which sounds stupid. If they're not supposed to know the password, you give it to them. Now you got to change their password. Anyway, they probably got an algorithm that says, well, if this password was this off of this question, then this is how he thinks, and we can algorithm and figure out what his next password will be. Because he's got to give us the question, it's like a hint to the path. Anyway, so it makes you think that passwords. Let's see, what was I going to say? If you give them a oh, it's for all the communists. One day you're going to go to the bank. You ever get into an account where you forgot your password, like Google? If you go into Google, like YouTube, and you forget your password, you don't get back on your account. They for some reason, if you get a new phone and I had a YouTube account and I couldn't remember my password because I was just clicking on it. And you write it. I wrote it down on a piece instead of having a centralized place where I write down all my passwords. I just wrote it down on a piece of paper, and they say save password, and so you figure, okay, well it's if you push save password, it's going to save it. Well, my phone messed. I don't know. I think it's probably they're trying to do it. If I had a bank account, what would I have done with my bank account? You can't get into your bank account. Or can you prove it's you? Because that's what Google is. Can you prove it's you? And it's like I gave information that would exactly prove it's me, but they say it's not enough information. So, I mean, are they going to do this to bank accounts down the road? And communists are thinking, yeah, I hope so. You know, I hope they keep me from my bank account, and then it just turns over to the government. And the government, you don't have any money, and your direct deposit goes to the government. That's just a naive. I don't even know if it'd be a viewpoint, but a naive way to think that, just a quick view of how it's going to be, how they're going to get all the money to the government, and then the government just gives you your allowance. Everybody will be working on allowance, and then they'll just give more money to people who they want to have more allowance or whatever. Why they would do that, I don't know. Friends, other friends, and they help me get elected. Elected communist, because that's a possibility. Because I look at Putin, he just gave himself a presidency for another 3 terms. You think, oh, okay, well, Glasnost is coming up, and so Russia's going to turn to where the people will be free. And then China is the only thing that actually is going to be free. Or not be free, but they let the people run around the planet. Of course, they're probably to spread their viruses, but whatever. Of course, they've been mapping the country out for, or maybe the planet. They got this big giant global picture. They tell all the Chinese tourists, take pictures of everything. Got to turn it into the government when you get back. That you'll get your pictures back, which they might not want. It has a bunch of buildings and streets. You can keep it, and so the government maps all the connects all the pictures that the billion tourists of China have taken over the last 20, 30 years, or however long that they've been allowed to roam free. And so now China's got this better than Google Maps. In fact, they probably, who cares? They got Google Maps now. And in fact, Google Maps is probably out because the government said, well, China, we found out China has everything mapped out anyway. And it probably looked like Google Maps. And so they came up, China's got all this mapped out with all these pictures over decades of photography by people that they've allowed to travel. Just all the citizens, they just turned their pictures in. Nobody knew about it except spies, and spies didn't tell the world. So the world would say, hey, wait, we don't want them people coming here and mapping our place out. So if they have a thing, and now that we got Google Maps, that doesn't matter. So anybody can connect into it, and they can just put it in a database, lock it away, copy it and lock it away. So even if Google Maps, you know, for a war time, they just they have the ability to close that down. Does the government say, okay, you can have Google Maps, but in wartime we're going to close that down because we don't want the enemy knowing? It doesn't matter now. They got it, and down the road you won't be able to get into your bank account or anything for that matter. Government will have it all, and they'll just you'll just be like a child with a that is given an allowance. Here's your allowance for this week. You're starving. Well, maybe you should work harder. You might be the hardest worker in the factory, but you're not popular. You know, you don't have social contacts. If they even have social, the social contacts will be fake. It'll be like how they have fake applause on TV shows. That's what your social accounts will be like. Oh, this person wants to be really happy and famous, and so they just click in, boom. Oh, you got 1 million followers, and so this person walks around happy. But there's not 1 million followers. They just got all this. They just got all this fake propaganda that they gather over all these years of all these popular people. That's they make these people popular. You think, why are these people popular? And they're just adding up. They're just taking all the effects that all these popular people that you think, why are they popular? And you think, wow, I don't really like them, but they got 1 billion followers, and you're like, why do they got 1 billion followers? But anyway, the government's taking all that, or whoever's taking all that, gathering that info. So when they give everybody, they isolate the population on contacts, it'll just be automatic feed. Oh, they'll have an algorithm. So if you plug something in, they'll have something that automatically pops back at you, like, oh, you got 1 billion followers, or oh my gosh, that statement just gave you, because somebody else had already said the statement, because that's basically how life is. Somebody says something that might be obscure and doesn't get known about it, but the information, it'll rattle the information, whatever they call it, the people and info gathering, and they'll say, oh, this is a question we don't really want popularized until we have a way to control the input and output. And so they'll put it all together and control the input and output. And then the next person that comes up with that question, 5 years later, they'll have all this stuff and they'll make them popular because they'll be able to control what people think about. They'll already have bots in effect to give answers, say, oh no, this is fake, because and then I saw this, and people say, yeah, it's fake, and then the conspiracy theorists come up and say, oh, the government's anyway. Who knows which way it'll go? There's the future of passwords. The banks will close down you and give your money to the government, and then you can't remember passwords. You can't be trusted with money. Okay, what are you doing with money if you can't be trusted with a password? I mean, that's how it's good. First, they got to work. They got to work society into believing that not everybody is worthy of having money. Wish you already got that anyway. I mean, look at the people that have money and have popularity, and you go like, what the heck? They do nothing all day, but they're millionaires. So that's the future. It's like what they want. Then they'll have those people under their thumbnail because they'll bring them up millionaires, and all of a sudden one day they just dump them on like, oh, wait, we noticed that you were typing in you like little children and blah blah blah, and then they're just going to attack them like that, and they'll delete 1 million tweets, or they'll delete 1 million people, and and they'll say, oh, we got you now, and we're going to control you like this and whatever. But that's because you think, well, I got the government backing me, so I'm going to say this and that on social media, and then they just go poof, close that down. So doesn't really matter. I mean, glad I ain't got kids, because this planet's gonna get really weird here in the next, I'm guessing 10, 20 years. People thinking they were oppressed in the 60s are going to wish for that oppression, compared to what 10 or 20 years is going to bring with internet and social, internet passwords, social interaction, and all that. It's going to be worse than probably China in Mao Zedong days. Anyway.